afternoon, honorable members. Can anybody hear me?
Good afternoon, Chairperson.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Hendricks. I see you are here. I see Honorable Chauke Adonis. I see Honorable Singh. See Honorable Alicia. Welcome back, Honorable Alicia. I see Honorable Ngubane, Honorable Bodlani. I think that we do have a quorum to begin our meeting. Can you please confirm for me, Hajira?
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Chairperson, we have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me greet all the honorable members who are present on the platform. Let me greet colleagues from government, the department, as well as the entity SITA, who I'm seeing present. Let me also welcome all other members of the public who would have joined in this meeting. This meeting is called to engage on a number of items. Hajira, if you could please just put up the notice of the meeting so we get the agenda. This is an ordinary portfolio committee. Members will remember that we had requested an additional day. I always argue with the Honorable Nchabeleng on this. This committee sits once a week. We requested an additional day and we were told that we could use Fridays. However, due to commitments that other members have on Friday mornings, we then resolved to utilize this particular slot from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I doubt that we will take that long on this meeting. And also just to say the time is not the most convenient, and we may from time to time have to keep checking back with the members whether there hasn't been any change in their circumstances, which would allow us maybe to meet earlier on Friday rather than this afternoon shift. So on the agenda, we have the adoption of 4 sets of minutes, then the presentation by SITA on the automated tracking tool, and then finally the consideration and adoption of the report on the roundtable on podcasters. We did have an item on the agenda which related to SABC collaboration with Parliament TV in particular, looking at how we can take Parliament TV, which currently resides on channel 408, onto a free-to-air platform. We received a letter from the CEO of the SABC this morning who requested that the item is moved, largely because they were not prepared. They were informed late, and the document that was initially supposed to be presented in the meeting is more than 2 years old, and they would wish to revisit it. So we acceded to that request that we will reschedule that particular item. So, honorable members, that is the agenda. Hajira, can I just double check before we proceed? The document on the podcasters roundtable, was that shared with the members and when?
It was shared, Chairperson. When was that? I think Tuesday or Wednesday, Chairperson.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Honorable members, may I then have the mover for the adoption of the agenda, noting the removal of the SABC. Honorable Chauke Adonis.
Greetings, Chairperson and honorable members and everyone who is on the platform. I hereby move for the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chauke Adonis. Honorable Singh.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon to all members and all on the platform. Chair, I'm happy to second the agenda, but can I please request that if we have time, can we just have a brief discussion about the possibility if a study tour is going to go ahead before the end of May or not, if that's even a possibility, because there's quite a few of us that won't be able to travel after that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. We can add that item on the agenda, but let me check. Mr. Ngoma was supposed to provide us a report. Is Mr. Ngoma in the meeting? I know that he had been off ill. Hajira?
Mr. Ngoma is not well, Chairperson, and I don't see him on the meeting at the moment, but I'll follow up and check with him. Thank you.
Can you follow up and then give us feedback then towards the end of the meeting? Okay, thank you very much. Then with the agenda just duly adopted, can we check if we have any apologies, please?
Afternoon, Chairperson. We have apologies for the Minister and the Deputy Minister who has prior commitments. And then we've just received a notification that the DG will arrive late. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The DG is here. Welcome, DG. Okay, maybe let's run through the minutes very quickly before we get to the substantive issues on the agenda. The first set of minutes are on the minutes from the meeting of the 17th of March. If you could take us through them, Hajira, and doing so quite briefly. Thank you so much.
Afternoon, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'll be brief with the minutes of the 17th, as this has been put before members already. The only concern was that in terms of the resolutions, there was time frames. And the content advisors have now removed all time frames. And so the minute stands as is. It has been put to the committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
Sorry, Hajira, can you repeat that? Because what you're saying and what I'm seeing here, they are not speaking to one another.
Apologies, Chair. Chairperson, in this set of minutes, let me do it slower. Apologies. There was a briefing by CASA and the Competition Commission on the regulatory conditions, public interest obligations and compliance requirements, and also the acquisition of MultiChoice Group and the merger between Mazif and Vodacom. The concern in this minutes, Chair, was just the recommendations. I'll scroll down there. In the recommendations, there were time frames put and members had a concern. The content advisors has subsequently removed all time frames. So that's the only change. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Hajira, but I don't think that was the understanding when we withdrew these minutes. I think that the understanding was that even the issues of the recommendations needed to be socialized with the members, given that there were a number of concerns that were raised by members in that meeting. Unfortunately, I left early. I'm happy that we put it if the members feel that the recommendations speak to what they would have wanted coming out of that meeting. Maybe I won't be able to comment much, but I know that at that time there was a feeling that there's issues that are missing. Maybe let me open it up for the members for any comments on these minutes. Yeah, can I check if we have any hands? Honorable Bodlane?
Good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon to the meeting. Chair, you are right. The issue was not about having the timeframes. It was about how feasible it was to really oversee such recommendations, because I think some of them were saying 3 months within the adoption of the minutes. So it was really not about removing the time frames. So I'm reluctant to then accept the minutes without that. All we were saying was that let it be more realistic and better informed, because at that point we also felt that nothing was justified in terms of saying on one particular item 3 months versus 2 months, 6 months versus 3 months. That was the contention, Chair.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come in on those minutes? Dr. Metupe?
Good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon to our members. Chair, I think indeed one of the complications that we had, Chair, I think that was Honorable Chabeleng, in terms of the stipulation of the number of days, that I would really want to concur with, maybe with Honorable Rani, because one of the things that we had indicated on the recommendations were the days. And I think subsequent to that, we had then taken a posture as advisors that just maybe, and we did not know how to really to go about in terms of, more so that the Competition Commission is sitting elsewhere with the TIC, and these are not. I mean, it's an entity which is not under our almost immediate, oversight, mandate in overseeing that entity. So we really grappled in terms of how do we then prescribe to them in terms of time frame. We can come back instead of, because previously we had put in number of days, and subsequent to that, we then, decided that let's rather put number of months on a quarterly basis, or even, a 6-monthly basis. We can go back that is missing in the minutes. We can go back and on the basis of each and every recommendation, put either a 3 months or a 6 months, if the members are so agreed to that. When we took out the prescription on the number of days, after Honorable Chabeling had raised an issue that, we don't know what informs the number of days, because we had 180 days, but since subsequent to that, we then, agreed as, or at least did make a determination as advisors that let's rather, stick to the quarterly basis type of time frames, or even 6-monthly type of time frames. So we can go back and put those, as, the stipulated, or at least agreed time frames in as far as this resolution are concerned. I thought I should just, assist in that regard, Chair. I hope it does assist to some extent. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Madupi. Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Chair. The input I would like to give is that on one of the sets of minutes, I queried the timelines, but I made it very specific that that timelines are important, because if we're going to track our recommendations and have no timeframes with which to work with, that would make it quite difficult. What I did question, as the Honorable Budlani said, was I was questioning the reasonable of timelines that were being placed, because the one instance in one of the sets of minutes that I queried was that there was a matter that was subject to litigation. And they were saying that the minister must have this outcome within 3 months. The litigation is out of his or her control, no matter who the minister is, or that kind of thing. So I was saying that there has to be some proper judgment being used when we are putting that to see whether those things are actually feasible. And if the ones that we know that cannot happen, perhaps we should be indicating that a follow-up from the committee or the secretariat or somebody needs to be done in 2 months from now, so that we can see where the matter has progressed until. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Singh, for that addition. Members, I think for me, having read through the minutes, the over and above the issue of the timelines that we are speaking about, is the recommendations, part of what Dr. Madupi is saying in terms of how can we ensure that they are implemented, or at least it is feasible that they are implemented. I think I had been briefed that even after the meeting, there was a view that perhaps the companies themselves should also be engaged, because we are speaking about commitments post facto when already the Competition Commission has concluded its work, ICASA has concluded its work, but I also got a briefing that there were issues in terms of how the presentations were put before the committee, where members were not able to thoroughly engage the substance of the issue. I want to recommend that perhaps, Doc, as you're saying, maybe we must go back and be very clear what we want these minutes to say, and indeed if they are leading us to an engagement with the entities. I remember just before this meeting had been called, I'd also received a letter from Honorable Elisha wanting us to invite MultiChoice to the committee on some of these issues. So I don't know. Maybe let's revisit them, because I think that there are issues that we can come to. Thank you, members, and then we'll look at the timing issues as well and how we take this forward. Could we move to the next set of minutes, Jira, which I'm hoping won't be as intensive as these ones?
Afternoon, Chairperson. Chairperson, we have minutes 21st of April. It's a simple set of minutes, Chair, where we dealt with the annual performance plan and we dealt with GCIS and the MDDA and AMISA and DCDT on that day. The first page is the attendance. Second page also attendance. Third page attendance. There was the opening and the welcome. The opening remarks of the minister on that day. And then we had opening remarks of the Deputy Minister GCIS. Then we had the briefing by DCDT and AMISA, as well as the briefing by GCIS and the MDDA. The report stood over the program for that day stood over to the next item. And then minutes also stood over to the next item. And the report would be adopted. A letter to National Treasury should be drafted requesting clarity on the baseline allocations impacting annual performance plans. And then the second term program and minutes would stand over to the next meeting. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Members, may I have a mover for the adoption of the minutes or any clarity or edits that you would like to see on the minutes? You remember that the outcome of this meeting would then have been captured in the report that we adopted earlier this week. Honorable Subrati, I had seen your hand.
No, Chairperson, I thank you so much. Yes, you are right. The outcome has been captured in the report we've adopted. Chairperson, I'd like to move for the adoption of this report, of this minutes.
Thank you very much. May we have a seconder? Honorable members. Thank you, Honorable Bolani. The third set of minutes, Hajira.
Chairperson, the third set of minutes, Thursday, 23rd of April, where we continued with the annual performance plans of SAPO, Postbank, SABC, USASA, and SITA. On the first page, we have attendance. Second page as well, Chairperson. Third page, attendance. Opening and welcome. The briefing by SAPO, Postbank, SITA, SABC, USASA, USAF on the APPs. And just to inform that the observations and the recommendations will be drafted in a report. And then the draft program, that matter was also stood over. And then the minutes of the 27th also stood over to the next day. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Hajira. Straightforward. May I call for a mover? Honorable Ntshabeleng?
So maybe when these minutes are read through, can we just hear a reason as to why they were set over and actually move to the next meeting so that we can just catch up on that basis and finalize and adopt? Thank you so much.
Apologies, members. It stood over because of lack of time, and we dealt with it in the following meeting. Thank you.
Honorable Ntshabeleng, the response, you remember that in the minutes were put at the end of the agenda, and by that time we were running out of time, and we said we would consider them at the next available opportunity. So that's why we have these sets of minutes. These are from last week. May we proceed, Honorable Ntshabeleng?
I move for the adoption.
Thank you very much. May I have a seconder? Honorable Hendricks?
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much. And then the last set of minutes, please, Hajira.
The last set of minutes, Chairperson, was Friday, the 24th of April, where we dealt with the ICASA, FPB, ZEDNA, BBI, Sentech on their APPs, where we also dealt with those minutes and the second term program. First page, Chairperson, we have attendance. Second page, attendance as well. Third page as well. We have the opening and welcome. We had the presentation by ICASA, FPB, ZEDNA, BBI, Sentech on its APP, and we noted that a report will be adopted and drafted. And then here we have the adoption of the second term program, which we had time for. And we also had adoption of the minutes 27th of March. And then we had some internal committee discussions on the committee processes. There were certain observations made by members, and I'll read the recommendations, Chairperson. The committee will schedule short committee-only discussions at the beginning of select meetings to address internal matters. SITA is developing a tool that would flag outstanding resolution and escalate non-responses. Outstanding questions must be answered in writing within the agreed timeframes tracked through the new system, and the Secretariat will ensure that the oversight visits and study tours are prioritized and realistically scheduled. The committee was also of the opinion that the upcoming Limpopo oversight was overloaded and impractical, and then the report with observations and recommendations is to be drafted for adoption in the National Assembly, which has been done. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Hajira. I think that on the recommendations which were internally focused, the SITA issue is being presented here today. We're starting to collate the questions. You would have received the questions. I think the responses to some of the questions yesterday or the day before. And then the issue of study tours, we've requested it's added on the agenda. I think Hajira is trying to get hold of Mr. Ngoma. We did tell you that the Limpopo visit was overloaded and impractical, but that's done. And then the report has also been concluded. I think one issue that is still outstanding is the committee-only discussions. But with those minutes presented and a correction of the spelling of Honorable Ngobese's surname, can I have a mover for the adoption of the minutes? Honorable Nchabeleng, your hand is up.
Adoption.
Thank you very much. May we have a seconder? Thank you, Honorable Subrathi. Thank you very much. So with those minutes moved and seconded, they are just duly adopted. So thank you very much, honorable members. Maybe let's get then into the first substantive issue of today's meeting, which is a presentation from SITA regarding the tracking tool that we have been speaking about. Members will remember that earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, we had asked the committee advisors to come and brief us on the work that is being done in order to assist the committee, I suppose, digitize its processes. This would have arisen out of frustration that the National Assembly makes recommendations, takes resolutions, engages with the departments on a regular basis. However, there is no way of tracking the implementation of that and ensuring that as and when issues need to be escalated, that is done. So the committee advisors, in their wisdom, then engaged with SITA as the custodian of government systems, and that is the presentation that we are to receive today. I want to welcome the delegation from SITA, led by the interim chairperson of the board, Ms. Zane Mudau, the MD, Mr. Mahato Melo, Mr. Gopal Reddy, Mr. Tlalida Tladi, and as well as Ms. Malebo Mkwatlo, who are here with us. And I understand that congratulations are also due to the minister for having gotten cabinet approval for the appointment of a new board, and also to extend our sincere appreciation as the portfolio committee to the interim board that was led by Ms. Mudau for excellent work that they did to bring us thus far. Can I check with the committee advisors if there's anything you would like to say before I hand over to Ms. Mudau to lead us in the presentation?
If I may, Chair, just a precursor, maybe just to remind the members, like as alluded, Chair, that there was a presentation earlier in the year on this process of automation. I could quickly just refresh the members, in terms of what was the thinking when we approached SITA on the automation of the process. It's just going to be just a quick, precursor before SITA comes in, if you so allow, Chair.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Ajira, can I just quickly share something quickly if you allow? Ajira?
You can go ahead, Dr. Matupi.
Thank you so much. Not too sure if my screen it's showing share, just as a quick refresher to the members in terms of what was presented earlier this year. I think it was around February. Then we can now allow SITA to come in and just present the work that has been done so far in terms of a tracking mechanism into the committee's resolution. This was a presentation on the committee's tracking tool, on the resolutions and the automation process. We had indicated earlier in the year, Chair, that overview of what we currently are sitting with is an Excel spreadsheet, which is quite tedious and quite manual in its very nature. It's a manual Excel tracking, which the PCC used as a manual tool to record recommendations, but faced the data entry errors and delays. That's one thing. There was a lack of automation in that process. The tool could not automate reminders, escalations, or trend analysis, increasing workload and inefficiencies. There was a limited real-time insight, given the limitation of the Excel spreadsheet. Committee members struggled to access real-time progress and compare performance across multiple entities. That was one of the challenges that we were faced with. There was a need for an advanced solution, and this is what SITA would have worked on. And that's what we presented today. These limitations highlighted the need for a dynamic, integrated, and automated tracking system aligned with best practices. The second slide is challenges with manual tracking. It was lack of automated notification without alerts for assigned tasks and deadlines. Departments faced delays and missed commitments. It was time-consuming. Manual filtering in Excel made sorting items by department or status slow and cumbersome. No automatic data rollover. Open documentation had to be re-entered for each meeting, risking omissions and extra work. Absence of dashboards and scalability. And I think during our strat session, this is one of the things that Honorable Chabeling would have hammered on, that in the absence of a dashboard that can give a picture in terms of what has the committee recommended, and if anything, is there a platform that we can almost immediately go into and get the status on the work done in getting some of these recommendations attended to, and service delivery being explicitly being indicated on the ground. So the tool will give that indication in terms of the work done on making sure that recommendations are attended to. And that would then indicate, or at least give some sort of an indication in terms of resolving some of the issues on the ground. The second last slide here is the next step for portfolio committee, and hence we are here today. We needed to introduce a dynamic dashboard for real-time monitoring. And this is what SITA is going to be presenting in a minute or two, and force consequence management for repeated delays on some of these resolutions. And over the years, Chair, there's been a number of resolutions because of lack of monitoring and measuring, sticks in place, that we have instances where resolutions have fallen by the wayside. Strengthen follow-up cycles with structured reporting. This is what the tool would be about and be able to assist us in that regard. Prioritize oversight on high-risk, high-impact programs. That's really what the tool, in a nutshell, Chair, what the tool will be assisting the committee with is to capture. That's the first the first part of what about the tool that we need to capture. The second part will be to assign where there's a clear owner, due date and priority level, where they are assigned to, to either to the two department or the entities. The next step within the tracking, what the tool will be assisting on, it will be, the system will provide automated reminders and real-time status with full updates on a regular basis. And the fourth thing that the tool will be able to assist with will be alerts, where missed deadlines are automated, they are flagged as overdue on the dashboard. And the last thing that the tool is going to be assisting the committee with is to making sure that once these resolutions have been attended to and are resolved, then we can close them properly and with a proper, impact on the ground. Chair, in a nutshell, this is what the dashboard will be about. It would really give us the status distribution where it shows the open, closed, ongoing items, and the benefits in that will be to help to identify backlog areas. The second thing that the tool will assist the committee with is the priority levels. It would then be able to take some of these resolutions on whether they're urgent, and would then make sure that we give priorities on the high, the medium, or the low, priorities on some of these resolutions. And the benefit to that would be the support escalation, to support with the escalation planning, with the committee. The monthly trends, the recommendations over time, and the benefits, the reverse workflow spikes, and the ownership accountability. That's one area as well that the tool would definitely assist in making sure that when this resolution is passed, who's owning those resolutions and who's acting on those resolutions. Actions per owner and performance, that's the description. The benefits will be improved responsibility tracking of all the committee's resolutions. Overdue items, that's the next metric on the tool. The description, it will be high priority overdue actions. And what will be the benefit as far as that is concerned? It will be direct agent oversight in number of areas that would need to make sure that the committee played an oversight role over in terms of the resolutions emanating from all our meetings. That is really, Chair, a bit of a refresher in terms of what was presented earlier this year in February on what is that we're trying to develop together with SITA in coming up with a tool that will be presented by SITA in a minute. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doc, for just refreshing our minds on this. Let's me not waste any time. Just check with the DG if there's anything she would like to say before we hand over to SITA. DG?
Thank you very much, Chair, and a very good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the honourable members and to the colleagues at SITA. Chair, no, I think I'm happy that there was this request that was put to SITA. It talks to reaffirming SITA's position in as far as driving the digital transformation in the country. I therefore would like to maybe invite the chair, outgoing chair, to then take you through the presentation with the team. And I think this will also assist not only in terms of modernizing our systems, but to also have the real-time delivery in as far as you'll have a window of the information that we'll be able to provide as well, or interactions with Parliament. So this is a good platform or process that we've done, and I think if done successfully, it's going to assist also part of then the government's objective of making a capable and ethical and developmental state. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DG. Outgoing interim chair, over to you. Is Ms. Maddow in the meeting? In the absence of the chair, is the CEO in the meeting? MD? Mr. Mello?
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon. You may proceed, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for inviting SITA. As Chair, as you pointed out, I am accompanied by the colleagues who will do a demo of the system. In essence, Chair, what we've done is we've leveraged some platforms that we have, and the team has taken a view of an agile development mechanism, meaning that they are building capability with so far based on the discussions that and the insights that they got from the committee and the colleagues in Parliament, and they have built a demonstration of that. The concept is that as the requirements are refined, they will build and onto that. And then that's the team that Mr. Gopal Reddy, the team that he leads, will present that and take through what they've built. So this should not be seen as the end product, but as this was built based on the shared requirements, and there is opportunity and capability, more importantly, to add to that. And Chair, we're hoping that this would then give an opportunity for a funded mechanism to build a commercially robust and supported platform going forward. I will hand over to Gopal and the team to start the demo. I think they'll start off with, I'm not sure if they'll start off with the presentation and then move on to the demo. Gopal?
Thanks, MD, and good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson and members of the committee. Thanks for the opportunity for us to present. Peter, if you could flight the presentation. Just some background. So we've worked with the committee members to look at the requirements.
My apologies.
And,
I am blocked
yeah.
from being able to share. When
Go
I want to
ahead,
share.
sir. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I see I can now. Thank you.
Yeah, just to continue, we worked with the committee work group and looked at all the user requirements, and we've put up a solution. And basically, the solution is positioned to automate the portfolio committee meetings. If you can move to the next slide, Peter. We termed the solution GovTech, GovTrack SA, and we worked with the portfolio committee of communications and digital technologies and looked at all the SOEs that are under this committee, and the solution basically then drives on that basis, with then the opportunity to scale then the solution to all other portfolio committees who will then be able to leverage and get economies of scale of the solution. If we move to the next slide. The presentation then would cover the journey from the request to the working system, the GovTrack SA business elements, the value of GovTrack SA, the change in adoption that's required, a way forward in terms of the solution, and then we'll give a high-level overview on the solution itself. We're using a presentation mode, and then we've also got the team standing by to take us through a live demo. But before we go there, we will play a short video that gives a synopsis of the solution. Peter, if you can play the video.
Any business, including the business of government, has multiple meetings, and each of these results in deliverables and actions that must be assigned, managed, and tracked. The business that is government is immensely complex and requires extensive oversight, but without effective tools to assist with this, it becomes almost impossible to control. Introducing the SITA Meeting Management and Tracking System, hosted on the SITA Business Service Platform, a secure digital environment designed to manage, track, and report on government service delivery, and now also extends to tracking meeting outputs and deliverables. The SITA Meeting Management and Tracking System was developed in partnership with the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies, and allows committees to capture recommendations, assign actions to departments, and track progress in real time. Every step of the life cycle, from creating the agenda, assigning actions and resolutions to departments for investigation, receiving feedback is captured, monitored, and reported, giving full visibility for departments and stakeholders. The system provides modern and holistic dashboards and reports for every level of management, but especially to the committee. This enables effective management decision-making and oversight. It is hosted on the SITA Government Cloud, fully multi-tenant, ensures strict data protection, role-based access control, and enterprise-grade security. It also allows for license optimization within departments that leads to cost saving and economies of scale. This system is, of course, the ultimate tool, not only for the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies, but all parliamentary portfolio committees and other government department meetings.
Thanks, Peter. I think you can take it from here, going through then the various sections.
Okay, I just had to stop sharing to unmute myself, but I'm going to start sharing again. Okay, am I back? Can you see my presentation again, colleagues?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. So just a high-level view of what the system consists of. So we've got in the center there, we've got the committee or the meeting members that manages the meeting and they administer the meeting. Then we've got the SITA functional application support team that assists with any technical issues the members might have, and also with any future development requirements and so on. And then on the third component to this is the back-end processes, our ability from the meeting to task, track, and monitor back-end processes in departments and what happens with those taskings in the back-end. So the meeting members will schedule meetings, they will automate agenda and minutes, automated tasking and tracking, automated and unique reporting. Just to quickly show you the journey, I know that we have spoken about what happened, but I think this is a very good story. The first meeting we had on this topic was on the 10th of December. Our first demo of the system was on the 5th of February. The second demo, 5th of March. The third demo, 19th of March. To put this achievement in perspective, we developed the system in 2 months, and the SITA demonstrated through this agility in development, responsive engagement, and quick delivery. And I think the MD also mentioned the fact that this is a continual agile approach. So what we've done here is not the end. It is actually the beginning of a long, long journey. Value of GovTrack: central meeting management, central tasking and tracking, live reporting and dashboards, flexible system design and agile development principles, and low-cost development. Change and adoption. The critical road to implementation and adoption is we need executive sponsorship. We need business change management. We must remember that any tool, any system is just a tool. If the business do not adopt the tool and we do not adopt the principles within the tool, that tool will fail. There's a constant engagement between business and technical. That is the whole basis and the crux of agile development. It is constant interaction between technical and business to understand the new changes in need and to accommodate that and be responsive to that. And then, of course, business ownership. Business must drive the business adoption and business must drive business value. The way forward. Taking GovTrack SA forward requires endorsement from system, endorsement of the system as a meeting management tool for Parliament Portfolio Committee. Development of an implementation plan. So we need to sit down, plan the steps, decide how we're going to implement this and what the steps will be. We need to develop a training plan. We definitely need to train the back-end people that's going to interact with the system. But more importantly, we need to train the members of the meeting, the secretariat and the chairperson, so that they understand how to manage and interact with the system. Then the future is for Parliament to leverage the solution across all parliamentary portfolio committees. In that way, we can have a single central view of everything that happens in government, and the recommendation goes into departments in a central view. So now we're going to quickly have a view on the system itself, on what we have in the system, because the system is not just the meeting management tool. There are components outside of it that then enhances the system to be more effective and more user-friendly. So we're going to look at the self-service portal. We're going to look at what the landing page looks like, what components you have on the landing page. On my self-service, for instance, your catalog principles, how do you create a meeting agenda, what happens in my activity. We're going to look at the portal landing page for the committee itself, and that component there is where you actually perform the functions of the meeting. And then we're going to look at the portion where you manage your profile, because every individual that works on the system has an own identity, and you identify yourself with that login name that you have, and that also gives you access to what you see, what you have access to, and what you can interact with. And then lastly, we're going to look at reporting, which in my mind is one of the key things that will differentiate the solution from what we have at the moment. Okay, this on a self-service portal concepts. It's a centralized platform designed to facilitate the creation of a personal persona. So every user that consumes the service has its own persona. How we request in this portal, it tells you how to request, manage, and track services across the organization. It enables real-time tracking and automated workflows, ultimately improving productivity, service quality, and overall user experience. And then the next 3 points is quite important. The profile to register yourself requires two-factor authentication. So you register via your email as well as SMS on your cell phone number. And it ensures secure access to access management. There are built-in profile validation rules. You have to have your profile or your username has to have a certain length. Your password has a certain length. You can't reuse it too many times. Those kind of things are built into the system. And then the system runs on a secure government private cloud, as you've seen in the video as well. The system is accessible via the internet from anywhere at any time, including from your mobile devices. The landing page you see here, every entity that logs on has its own world that you live in. So when I log onto the system, I do not see the Parliament landing page. I see a SITA landing page because my world is SITA. But this is what the Parliamentary Committee will see. So here you can see the My Self-Service component. This gives you access to all the services you may consume on the portal, and this will expand continuously as we introduce more services. Then we've got reporting. This gives you access to all reports regarding Parliamentary Oversight Committee. This is the heart of the system. This is where you actually perform your function of managing a meeting. So this allows the Secretariat and Chairperson to run the meetings. And then profile management. This is where you maintain your own persona, where you can change your, if your details change, you can change it to the year and maintain it here. You have full control over that. Now we're going to look at my self-service. What happens on that component? I just want to say there's a lot we can say around these elements of the system, but we are just touching on them very high level, just to give you an overview. All users do not see the same service. It's aligned to the client profile or for security purposes. The intention is not to discuss the detail of each, but the following services are currently available. I can create a meeting agenda. That's where I create my placeholder for my agenda before I go and build my agenda at the agenda points to my meeting. So it's a placeholder for my meeting. I can log a support ticket. So let's say I'm working on a system, but when I click on a button, it doesn't work. I don't have to phone anyone. I can log on the system here, and I can send a support ticket straight to the functional application support people. And then, of course, we also allow you to, if you're not happy with us, you can also log a complaint. But of course, we would like to have some compliments in there as well. And then all service submitted on this portal will appear on my activity. And when I say that, it is related to my persona. So anything that I log, any complaint I log, any support ticket I log, will sit under my name, and I go to my activity, I will see it there. We're going to look at create a meeting agenda. So there's a button there on this that I click, and when you click on that button, you have a web form that you fill in. I'm not going to show you the form. When we do go into a demo later, we'll show you the form of how you generate your agenda or the meeting placeholder. But it's a web form that you fill in. It asks you the questions. It guides you to what you need to fill in. And when you're done, you submit the request there, and it creates your placeholder for you. When you've done that, you go to My Activity that sits on the top of the screen. And this is where you see anything that you've logged. If you've logged any requests, any complaints, any meeting agendas that you've opened, you'll see it here with quick access on your profile. Next, we're going to look at the system itself. Again, this is a very, very high level view. So when you go onto that, you actually access the front end of the system. And this is where you can create, you will select your meeting agenda that you've created, your placeholder, and then here you will add your agenda points. And during the meeting, we'll show you that later on as well. During the meeting, you will then per agenda point add recommendations. So you can have per agenda point multiple recommendations. You can also have agenda points that spans across multiple departments, where you task multiple departments on the same agenda point, but different activities against their names. Then we're going to look at profile management. The profile management component of the system is I can update my profile. So here you maintain your cell phone number, changes in job title, and those kind of things. You can validate your profile. If for any reason you feel that you want to change your password because something happened, you can come in here, you can revalidate. You will get again a two-factor authentication, and you can feel secure that your access to the system is still secure. And then you can also, if you need to, reset your password. Of course, when you reset your password, you'll also get the two-factor authentication from there. The last thing that I want to focus on is reports. Now, reports are limited to your profile. Therefore, the committee will see, at the moment, we've got 544 recommendations logged, maybe a bit more because we logged 1 or 2 today as well. The committee will see all 544. But when a department like SITA logs in, SITA will only see the 50 of those recommendations aligned or assigned to them that they are responsible for. They do not see everything. And they will see all the reports, but related to just their environment. And the level of reporting as well as information shared is determined by the committee responsible. So what it means is that one portfolio committee can say, I want people to see the following fields. The next portfolio committee say, I only want them to see these fields. And they can limit and be as flexible as they want to within the reporting side of the system. Some principles in reporting. You start off with the dashboard. The dashboard is a conglomeration of a number of reports that each run individually, but you can see them in a dashboard view like this. Now, although the recommendations that we display here are actual recommendations from the committee, these reports are not necessarily what the committee wants at the moment. It is reports are here as examples, and when we move into the deployment and the actual interaction on what reports you want to see, we can always customize these and we can make them a lot more applicable to what your business requirement would be. Now we're going to go into a bit of more detail of what the report says. If you look at this report, for instance, this is an example of your distribution on status. So you've got open reports, you've got ongoing reports, and you've got closed reports. Open report means that it's a report that's in process and it's got a date against it for delivery. So on this report, I can do escalation, I can do performance reporting, I can indicate if you have met the target, if you missed it, if you are in jeopardy of missing it, all those kind of things can be done. It can be escalated via email, SMS, whatever methodology that you would want to deploy. Ongoing some of the recommendations at the moment does not have a target date. It says, or a deadline. It just says it's an open, ongoing activity, and therefore it sits there as ongoing. And as I say, at the time of this presentation, there was 544 recommendations, of which 82 was closed. The next one gives you a priority distribution. So every recommendation logged is classified critical, high, medium, low, and it tells you how many of them are critical, how many is high, how many is low. Okay. The next one is a workload distribution. So it tells you to who this recommendation is assigned, and who must go and investigate. And it tells you where the distribution sits. I just want to say, of course, these are not the actual people at the moment. These are assigned profiles at the moment is for demonstration purposes. And as soon as we start deployment, we will then get this alignment correctly to who this is assigned to, in which environment. Here's another view that you can see. You can see, for instance, how many of the recommendations per individual is open and how many are closed. It gives you a nice holistic view of, again, performance and resolution against owners. Here's a nice one for heat map perspective. You can see you've got two kinds of views here. You've got one where critical has a number against it, and then you've got some where it doesn't have a number in it. Because it's a sample report, we've given you just the idea of what you can see in here. But of course, the committee will decide how they want to see it. But it tells you per grouping or type of recommendations you do, what is your distribution across critical, high, medium, low. And it gives you a view at a glance. That is high level the presentation. Any questions at this stage? Any comments?
Well, thanks, Peter. We'll take guidance from the chairperson. Chairperson, we do have a live demo, but we will hand back to you to guide us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I request that we see the live demo and then we'll take questions thereafter? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Peter, if you can then go into the system.
Okay, Chris, would you log in for us? I'm also going to log on my side. I am sharing at the moment.
I'm logged in already.
Okay. I just want to log in first so that I give the committee a view of, when I log in, you will see in the presentation what you have seen from a system perspective. When I log onto the system, you'll see I'm logging in now. This is my view. I do not see what you've seen at all. Okay. Am I still sharing?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So you can clearly see that my view is different from the world of the committee. Because I'm a citizen, I am tasked to investigate the back end. So I've been given a recommendation to say, here's a task for you, go and investigate and give feedback. And I just want to show this. I'm not going to go any further than this. But if I go and look at not my profile, if I go into the system here, you will see that I have a number of recommendations from the committee that sits against my name that I now need to go and investigate. You can see there's a work order from that comes out of the committee. Department to explore TV license collection, those kind of things. And these are all parliamentary recommendations that are tasked to me to go and investigate. So with that perspective, I'm going to hand over to Chris now to just take us through the front end of the process, where we're going to show you how to create an agenda, how to do all of those kind of things.
Can I just be given the share capability, please?
Then go ahead, sir.
There we go. Thank you. Right, so good afternoon, Chairperson and honored colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm just going to take you through, as Peter showed you, the login. This is how you get to the site. You're going to log in with your username and password, and you will get your own landing page. Now, we've logged in as Hajira Sali. She's a secretariat to the Oversight Committee. And this is her view of the world. This is her world for the committee. So you can see we brand it for each committee. It can carry its own branding, and we have a watered down, not a watered down version, but you have your own view of the world, of your world, and what you need to do. As Peter showed in the presentation, my self-service. If I go into my self-service, they have the ability to create the meeting agenda, and I'll just show you that very quickly. As Peter said, there's your form. Fill in these forms, you give your meeting a date and time, you give it a description and name, and this creates your placeholder for your meeting. You select who the chairperson is in the secretariat, and these people obviously must be registered in the system and belong in the system. Once you submit that, you will then be able to go to your meeting console and select your meeting.
Chris, my apology. I just want to mention that we are not creating this a meeting agenda now because we're in production system. We don't want to mess around with the data too much.
Correct.
Therefore, we're not demonstrating how to create the agenda. We're just taking you to the next step.
Next step, yeah. Thank you. I'm just also cognizant of the time, so I'm going to run through this so that you can see where we go. If I go from home, I go to my management meeting, I select from my list of meetings. This is the, and I'll explain the concept as I go through this. This is the main meeting, committee meeting. You will see here we have 53 agenda items. And these agenda items are across government departments, across internal to themselves as well. These are agenda items that are raised per meeting that happens. And you'll see some of these agenda items, if I just sort this by ID, some of these agenda items you will see on other meetings as well, because we pull them from this main meeting and we can just have separate agenda items for each of the sub-meetings that we have with the various departments. So only the relevant agenda items are carried forward into the sub-meetings. But this is for the committee to review and see all of the agenda items that have been created across all of the meetings that they have had. And for each one of these, you will see there's a number of recommendations. The recommendations are per agenda item, to what might come out of that agenda item. And again, we can see each of these agenda items. I'm just going to go here so you can have a look, are assigned to particular departments and people. We can allocate date and time stamps. So there's a target date allocation. This is when the response back is due. If there are any work notes or anything added to this particular work item by any individual that has been assigned to, or that is part of the committee themselves, you can add a work note. And as soon as you add a work note to this item, it will display on the right-hand side, and you can then track statuses. Now you can do attachments to this item. You can add your work notes. It's fully auditable and trackable in the back end. So we know who's added the work note, unrestricted from that perspective. So anybody, committee member, or the actual person this work note has been assigned to, can then add a work note. What we can also do is add a task. Now you'll see tasks on the side here. I'm actually going to try and find one with a task. Just give me a moment. I think this one has no. And I created today one with a task. Murphy's Law. And now I have one here. Sorry, I'm just going to change meetings. This one. There we go. So this particular recommendation has 3 tasks assigned to it. So you'll see this recommendation first off was assigned to SAPO, an individual in SAPO. And then because it's a multidisciplinary recommendation, you have the ability then to say, well, not only must SAPO give me feedback, but I also need feedback from Postbank, SITA, and SABC. And as such, you have allocated those tasks to a particular individual within that organization. So you can quickly see who that's assigned to. And if you want to change that assignment, you can change that assignment or whatever you need to do on that particular task. If this assignee adds a work note to the task in the back end, you will see that note automatically on the task itself and in this console as well. So it has the complete ability to manage and get real-time feedback as a person updates an activity. It's populated into the system immediately. As the portfolio committee member, you have full visibility of this. And you also have assignment within the committee itself. Now we took the view on that you will only, because you don't really, from a business perspective, interact with the back end, you would interact with the system as an individual. And as a member of the portfolio committee, you're assigned particular activities. Mr. Madupi, we use you as an example yet again. Don't get too frightened with the number of activities you have against your name, but you have lots of activities against your name that require your attention. So they're all the activities within the portfolio committee itself, and the people within that committee are assigned specific tasks and activities. And in exactly the same way as if you assign them outside, you can then manage your activities. You can add a work note, you can add a task. So you can assign to somebody else to provide feedback, provide information, to do whatever you need them to do. And you can then continue with your work. One of the things and a decision we took in our conversations with the team members is we do not allow any recommendation to be closed without ratification from the committee and the secretariat and chairperson themselves. So you'll see if I wanted to close any particular recommendation here, I have to have committee ratification. I can't just close it on its own. I can't close an agenda item without these committee items being ratified and closed. As long as I have open items here, I cannot close an agenda item. And I can, again, these recommendations require ratification and recommendation from the committee, and only the Secretariat has the ability at this stage of the game to actually close the recommendation. I'm going to take you quickly into then the reporting, as Peter showed you as well. So real-time reporting. We have our tracking dashboard, as Peter showed you, some of the tracking capabilities here. And just while it comes to the fore, Pranesh Maharaj down the bottom here is a member of the SIU, and we also are running a platform for them to manage the proclamations that come out of Parliament. So we already have the SIU on board in a system they use to track and manage their parliamentary recommendations, etc. So this is the reporting platform. You don't see anything else. You can see customer complaints. If you have logged a complaint, you can see the complaints you've logged. We don't have any open complaints, thank you. But you can see the complaints there, and you can track complaints as well. And you would have the same view for any particular ticket you had logged with functional support. So again, these dashboards are real time. We can create whatever view you wish without any issues at all. And this is an interactive exercise we take with each component. If there's nothing further, Peter, you feel I need to demonstrate, then that's about me.
Chris, I just want to mention, you mentioned the SIU. I think it's important for the committee to understand, or to understand the perspective of economies of scale. SIU has access to the system already. So when we now bring them into the system, there's no new license requirements, there's nothing, because they are there already. The portfolio committee indicated that the investigators of these taskings will probably go to the PLOs in the regions. The PLO already exists in ITSM. They have access because they already do investigations from a presidential hotline perspective. So those individuals, if they already have access to the system, they do not require anything else. All they need is they require retraining on this, and then they continue what they have because their profile allows them access to all of these components. We add this as an element to their profile, and the license they have continues to be used. And it has multi capabilities. And their economies of scale becomes a true reality, because you don't have to have a license for every system you access. I hope that makes sense to the committee to a certain extent.
Okay, thanks, Peter and Chris. I think with that, Chair, we want to hand back to you a system that we want to then refine and then look at how we scale it across portfolio committees, bringing economies of scale, and then digitizing oversight real time. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gopal. Let me thank Chris and Peter and everybody at SITA who worked on this. Truly, truly phenomenal work, especially given the time period that you had. I just felt my heart jumping into my mouth when I was looking at 560 something recommendations. But I suppose that's what we're dealing with. And I'm sure if they were being attended to timelessly, which is what the system hopes we will be able to achieve, you'd probably find that we keep recommending the same thing over and over again, and hence the number of recommendations are growing, or at least at that quantum. So thank you very much, guys. We really, really appreciate it. Let me check with the members if they have any questions on the functionality of the system, and thereafter we can look at how we take it forward into deployment. Hands, comments, questions, honorable members? Okay, let me start with Honorable Singh, followed by Honorable Bodlani, Honorable Hendricks, Honorable Subrath, and Honorable Elisha. We'll come back if there's another hand. Honorable Singh, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Presentation is most welcome, and I think it will really help the committees to get organized and track their recommendations and make sure that we get to a point where all are resolved within acceptable timeframes. So I also welcome the immense amount of work done in a short space of time. And I think it also then shows off SITA's capabilities as well. Chair, I think for me, it's just a question of clarity in terms of the timelines for when, let's say, our portfolio will be able to fully utilize this tracking tool. When will it go live for the portfolio committee? And then I also noticed that, when you're talking about minutes, you're talking about agendas, you're talking about tracking the recommendations and the like. It seems, and it needs to be as well, I guess, quite heavily management based. So one would assume our secretariats, our researchers, our content advisors will be using it more frequently. I want to just find out, as a member of this portfolio committee and as a member of Parliament in whole, who will have interest in what's happening in other portfolios as well, how do I access it and how do I use this tool and how will it benefit me? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable Bodlani.
Thanks so much, Chairperson. Chair, we are moving, and this is really exciting. I think this is something we grappled with from the 6th Parliament, that every meeting, almost every meeting, there would have been a resolution and things kept falling through the cracks, and it looked like we were not achieving much. So this is a great tool, and to agree with you that the Excel model was going to be tedious and it was not going to help with any efficiency for the portfolio committee. Chair, I'm excited for SITA, and this really speaks to how agile they can be, because from the request of the portfolio committee, they have been able to produce something that they are then going to be able to commercialize. But out of interest and for information, how does government itself track the work of the departments, for example? If SITA had to go and invent this, and I could have missed it, maybe they borrowed from some system that already exists in government, because it could be also worrying if government departments do not have something like this to track the workflow of the employees, just out of brilliant. But I'm really excited. Chair, what we have is a parliament that has been in existence for years now. And this portfolio committee, as much as we are excited, we are trying to also be agile ourselves. We cannot do away with the work that has been done by previous administrations. How much of the work from the previous administration is this tool able to integrate? And are they able to integrate external systems? In my head, I started thinking, for example, Parliamentary Monitoring Group, PMG, to say PMG really has a lot of information that relates to Parliament, but obviously they are an NGO and a stakeholder in Parliament. What ability is there for a process like this to integrate? For example, on PMG, we are able as members of Parliament to get replies to questions that we would have asked to the ministry. Is it something that could also be possible? Because we are getting it now, so that at least we also bring that to this end, where we have a one-stop shop for portfolio committee related matters. And the question, I think, an Honorable Singh has also covered, but let me ask it differently. I stop being a member of Parliament tomorrow. What safeguards would there be that I don't have access to the system as soon as I am out of this and system, just so that there is security. That is, if members will have access to this. So how do you ensure that some level of security and you keep abreast in terms of who is still a member, especially within that specific portfolio, and how much of the changes are they eligible to make as members of parliament? And how would that be managed? And is it correct that the old XL system that we started working with has now been imported into this, or are we going to start from scratch going forward? Because I realize that was a demonstration, but is the data what we are working with, what we have already collated as a portfolio committee, just so that we're not starting from scratch and lose the work that we have done, at least in the past 2.5 years that this portfolio has been in existence. And again, the question, how soon can we get the system going live? And is it also my understanding that entities will also have access to that? How do you manage that? How do you restrict that so that you don't have every second person having access to a system that really should assist us to be more effective? Chair, I don't know how far the system will be able to incorporate Parliament's corporate identity. I do appreciate that you already see that it looks and feels like a Parliament website to an extent, which is really helpful for us. But how do they then make sure that they don't lose the corporate identity of Parliament on simple things like the minutes, the agendas? Because what we have now is something that is produced through a Word document with on the letterhead of Parliament. So I think the continuation and guarding jealously on Parliament's corporate identity is something we should really be aware of. And is it, and I heard about SIU, is this the Special Investigating Unit? I missed the correlation between this system and the SIU. If that could just be explained, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bodlani. Honorable Hendricks.
Thanks, Chair. Let me take this opportunity to also welcome the presentation made by SITA, sorry, not CASA, by SITA. My Chair is to say that I think this is long overdue that we start incorporating systems within our government spheres. And such a system being explained, I see the graphical user interface is user-friendly. So everything I've seen so far about the system, and having studied systems myself, it's welcome. Mine is just that, as Honorable Bodlani has already indicated, how much of the previous data and from which year or administration of the data will feed into the system, because there's work already that has been done that needs tracking, and I can see we'll also have a real-time dashboard where all the work, and for instance, say some of the entities do appear in front of us, it will be easier for us to go back on the system and see what was the recommendations, was they follow up, and so forth. Some of the questions I have is on the cost and value for money. What is the full cost of GovTrack SA to date and the projected ongoing cost? And how does this compare to alternative solutions? The second question will be, where is parliamentary data hosted? Who has administrative access? And how is Parliament assured of data sovereignty and the POPI compliance? My last question will be then, how does GovTrack materially strengthen enforcement of committee resolutions compared to the existing manual process? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hendricks. Honorable Subrati.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me also join my colleagues in really welcoming this tool, Chairperson. Something that would really place a tool before us as we are involved in our portfolio committee meetings. so that we are not just listening, but we also then inputting in what I envisage to be a live system. So Chairperson, maybe some of the questions I would have, it spoke about a matrix of prioritization. And maybe the question that I'll ask around prioritization, there are several tools that are available. For example, as an Eisenhower matrix is one of the tools that is used for prioritization between urgent, must do, etc. There are 4 quadrants. Is there a scientific basis that has been used in this matrix of prioritization? Because we as a committee, there are so many loose ends that we need to tie up. Which is the priority that we need to deal with? Will this tool assist us to do that? My sense it is, because that's one of the matrices, prioritization. And then what is the scientific tool that would be written into the system that will assist us? There are several prioritization tools. My second question will be we in earlier when we didn't adopt the minutes because the minutes lacked SMART goals, specifically time-driven goals, and this is one of the things that we want to adopt in our portfolio committee. So we hold ourselves and the department accountable to timeframes. Will this have a time? It will, I would imagine, track time, but will it have an interface where it will send us reminders as MPs, as members, that this has got via SMS or WhatsApp? I'm not too sure how it would work, that you are nearing a time frame on this particular item without necessarily having to go and log onto the system. Would it have that, or can it be built into that in terms of reminders for time frames? Is it something that we, as I began to say, is it something that we'll keep on as we engage in our portfolio committee meetings, where we'll have our own personal notes that we can take, our personal questions that we want to raise? And then who will have access to this information? If I have my personal portal as Imran Subrathi, who else will have access to my notes, my observations? Instead of us making handwritten notes, can this be the place where we deposit our own notes and then decide what can be shared and what can't be shared? Obviously, that will then guide us what we can deposit into this tool, or at least to call it our new toy to play with. Who decides when an item does not become trackable? Because clearly, I think I heard you saying 500 to-do items. We don't want to get so what they say, that over analysis is paralysis. We don't want to get involved so much with this toy that we lose sight of the real stuff. So at what stage do we decide that we don't need to track this item anymore? It needs to fall off. I suppose that will be done by a committee. And then how is the system managed on an ongoing basis? Because we don't want to leave the secretariat now with the time to go and update the system. Example, prioritization. Who decides? We finish the meeting now and we decide, okay, item A, B, C, the matrix does its thing and it tells us we believe, or the system says this must be prioritized. Can it be done online at each meeting instead of us having to do it or delegating it or having to carry it forward? And maybe lastly, to borrow a theme from the invitation that the minister sent to the portfolio committee, from allocation to implementation. And I'm really trying to tie in, Chairperson. We are going to be approving budgets here, and we're going to be allocating funds and approving funds, and then we want to see those funds implemented. And I know I'm digressing because this is a parliamentary committee monitoring tool, but can it be linked to 2 things? One is the budget that we'll be allocating, and then we get feedback in terms of when it is implemented. And 2, can we have a tracking tool that talks to the apex priorities? Which apex priority is a particular item that we're selecting to track, talking to either poverty or creating jobs or building an ethical state? I'm just trying to expand my thinking and link this to the apex priorities for the 7th administration, so it also talks to that. I know I said a lot of things, Chairperson, but I'm really excited to play around this new toy of ours. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks, Honorable Subrathi. I can tell, definitely, you're very excited. Honorable Alicia? Thanks, Honorable Subrathi.
Good afternoon, Chair and colleagues. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think to an extent the colleagues have covered me, but there are questions that I would like to put forward, Chair. I think I'm very concerned, Chairperson, about wasteful expenditure when SITA claims that this system was developed at a low cost, without sharing real figures. So they expect us to just take their word for it because they're saying, yeah, here's a system that was developed at a low cost, and nothing is presented to us in terms of like real figures. And I asked this question then, Chair, because there has to be a cost, that will be required to run, this system each year. Is there a cost that they can give to us to say, this is how much it will cost to run, this system, or a system, a system cost to build and, to run this on an annual basis? Are there any figures that they can share with us? Because I don't know, unless they tell us. I don't think this is free, and they just need to be maybe transparent and clear with us in terms of what is required with that regard. I think, Chairperson, also as colleagues, we are all also aware, how tired we are, especially as the EFF when it comes to tenders. And this is also because tenders are always handed to favorites behind, closed doors. And with that said, can we be taken into confidence as a committee as if there were any private companies, that were involved in this or are involved in this, how were they appointed? Like who did this work? It's presented by SITA to us, we see that, but are those the only people involved, or there are other people that we don't know about, private companies involved in anyhow, or, anything that was appointed without us knowing? I think I have an interest in that. SITA also says, Chair, that this is low cost, but I ask myself, is they saying that it's low cost compared to what, So how do they prove that the system is low cost? Because especially when one of the presenters went to say this is the back office, like what they would be doing, they see something different with us. It looked pretty complex to me. So it goes back to my first question: what is low cost? What is that, and what are they comparing it to? And another concern I have, Chair, is that we know how much government systems always crash. So I'm wondering if they have a backup when this one fails. Is there a simple online backup, when the system goes down? Because I think that is very important to know, so that we don't lose the work that we are doing. But most importantly, Chair, I think I want to know, and one of the colleagues tried to ask this question, and it's very important. Who is watching us when we use this system? I think we need to know that. Who has access to this, as we're using this, and it's got the information, especially when Honorable Subrathi says issues of budget must be integrated and included in this system. Who has access, apart from us? Who do we have access to this system? And SITA has a very bad record. We know, they also know. So I just think maybe my last question, Chair, is that what happens when they abandon this project? We don't have them, the system is always down. Those things that we know happen, that are unacceptable, by the way. And it's not like anyone accepts them, but it's the nature of things in our country and the things that are, have got to do with government. We've got apps that get hacked. We've got systems that are abandoned or are no longer, maintainable or are no longer maintained. What happens when that is happening and this project fails? I think they need to be honest and open with us in terms of like what we do when that happens. I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Alicia. I think Honorable Nchabeleng, you were the last hand.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for the opportunity for this presentation. I think, Chair, maybe to get into the system, one, I think let's congratulate and really, welcome the presentation and congratulate yourself, Chair, for driving this process very rigorously and in strong leadership. One, when we raise these matters, and I mean, the system should be actually named or properly be accredited to the Portfolio Committee of Communications for its work in making sure that government can actually be seen as, open, transparent, and accountable. Why I'm saying this is because you are aware that, we continuously engage in unending meetings with ending resolutions, outcomes, progresses, projects must be done, things must be taken over and be implemented. And for the most part is when these things are actually said and spoken about, when we agree as a committee of parliament what must be implemented, we always struggle with the other part where entities and departments must fulfill their role and part. So the system actually must now be the core focus on those issues. I don't want to get into the politics of how we are going to deal with matter with relation to issues such as how are we going to hold the minister accountable, because at some point we have to have a dashboard tool. Where the dashboard tool is there, we have to have in the dashboard a reporting matrix that will show if the minister is meeting the targets or not. Simple as that. Out of 100 tasks, which has the minister closed, which are outstanding, etc., etc. So I don't want to belabor the issues of how this system should actually be expanded or actually be made user-friendly and far much more impactful. But for us is when we adopt minutes, one of the comments was said that, there'll be only, for instance, tickets in the system will only be closed through the user authorized administrators. So those tickets can only be closed if the minutes, one, have showed that indeed this was achieved and this was what was requested. You can close a ticket request for an item to be added, to say, yes, this item has been added, has been actually or executed, etc. So maybe my proposal, I should say that we need a working session with SITA to do a customization of this system into our working environment. The platform is brilliant, and the way it has actually now even evolving is much more encouraging to see that. And then we would need now to have they planned in their processes? That's my question now. Have they planned any user interface facilitation or what is the word in terms of asking for inputs on user levels? We are the users. We want to see what must be on the system. So I just want to know if SITA has done that with any committee members within us. And the other question is, has SITA looked at our systems and processes? For instance, how they are even invited? Have they looked at the agenda format? Have they looked at the agenda file? What do you call it? Form in the way the minute is actually tabulated and how it is done? Have they looked at the report of the minutes? All of those things, because if then it is exactly that, We don't have to change over anything. It's just a matter of taking what's existing and then doing the adaptation and then digitalizing it. You know, it will help us extremely so, because even when we came from our oversight last week, you've seen it, Chair. A lot of these problems, if we had a robust system, we would have by now been able to identify and track all of those problems and know where the hotspots of problems are nationally, and then we start doing prioritization. So it's an incredible system, but I think SITA should take its time now to engage us on a user experience, what we want to see from a user perspective. That consultation will be critical. Is it actually intended? Is it budgeted? As well as, is it something that's going to happen? The other level on the system is to make sure that this system cannot just be generic. It starts with communication, yes. They call it the Gov track, yes. But the Gov track with regards to Parliament tracking, very important. It's a Parliament tracking tool so that people can know what we're doing as parliamentarians. Instead of being told we are doing nothing, we're sleeping all the time. People can see in real time and daytime what is happening in Parliament and everything, including the engagements of even the sessions. We've got live sessions, like this session is live today. This kind of sessions can be inputted into the system itself. You know, the technology guys at SITA, they know this part. What I wanted to know is, how are they going to, they are assisting us on this process. Who becomes the owner? Who becomes the software OEM in terms of the people that will be OEM based? And then the other part of what, Honorable Kalisha mentioned, that issue of cost is very important. The presenter, when he started, he did mention that there will be further cost now after they've developed the kernel of the original, concept of the idea. What are we looking at in terms of further development cost? Yes, what was the initial development hours, time, man hours, and process of coding of this particular technology? The element of now making it owned by government, we don't want to have a similar situation, SITA, whereby you bring in developers to further improve on the system. They end up trying to control the system and then give us later problems where we'll say, no, we can't reach the system because why? SITA has not paid the developer. This must be owned either by Parliament, SITA should be the developer, and the OEM rights and the hosting should be based either within an arrangement that is clear, Parliament-based or SITA supported via Parliament authority. So I think those arrangements, I think the developers know what I'm talking about, and the system, people would understand. We don't want a situation where we will be told we cannot reach our system, one, because there was no payment to etc. and to a person, which is happening in government in all municipalities. They cannot have access to your ERP systems as well as other technology systems because they didn't pay service providers. And service providers just switched them off because the OEM of that system is owned by that service provider. So we want the ownership of this particular project. And if the budget is required to fund the ownership by Parliament of the system, it should be paid from Parliament-based budget for systems development. To further even indicate that there is European funding money for Parliament work like this, even including systems that is available, that Parliament knows about, that we should actually apply for through the Speaker's office. That is another input I wanted to say. The other part of it is, I think, Chair, let's schedule a proper engagement, even if it is physical, to help with the system inputs on our side, to say user experience, etc., how we can assist the development of this. But let's get our service level agreement right first of all in respect to this system, and so that we don't have fights, we don't have issues later, and the portfolio committee can emerge with this now as their flagship project in having assisted Parliament, and not only the committee, but Parliament, to ensure that it has full oversight, it can perform its task. We have digitalized ourselves, and we are working on a digital platform on every level, because this is the really birth of all of that we complained about. and we said we suffered about it, And maybe, Chair, if you're generous, you can really acknowledge and accredit this contribution that I drove this initiative. It's not a bill, but it's an initiative. So if you're generous, I know you will be. But I just wanted to indicate that what.
You can take chances.
That's my comments. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Jabeleg. You can take chances. It predates you, but we have no problem with sharing credit here in the committee. Honorable members, thank you so very much for all of those inputs. I think they're critical in advancing the work that is being done here, and this is a work in progress, really. I want to once again extend, my congratulations to SITA, and I'm happy that, for example, the turnaround time, the agility that you have moved with demonstrate that indeed SITA is not a lost cause, where you have backing and support and the requisite resources, you're able to turn things around. I've got one or two questions while agreeing with a lot of the points that the members have said, especially the need to maybe just sit together, coalesce around the user requirements, the business processes to ensure that all of those are aligned. I've noticed, for example, that I think today the system sent an email to Honorable Elisha saying from the chair indicating there's a task that's due to her. Now, I'm just saying some of those things that I know we need to clean up a bit. You've spent a lot of time with the advisors and the secretariat, and I think it also shows in the system where based on the work that is done, and it is important, it must be retained within the system, but then how then do we bring in the members in it in terms of the processes there? To that end, my first question is the extent to which, and I mean, I know we need to go back and clean up the data, but I would like to see in the system a lot more focus on oversight beyond the executive, but oversight that speaks to our communities. So while we would have the things that arise from meetings, would I need, for example, to create a meeting? You called it a placeholder, so I get that concept. So if we went to oversight in Limpopo and we met a young girl who said nobody had paid attention to them, they still need a DTT, whatever, a set-top box or DTH, can we log specific incidences? So when you are in Idugwa and there is no network, can we log those incidences on the system outside of meeting areas? So how would that work? And then the second thing is on the ownership distribution. Are we able to assign to one person, and then within that environment, that person assigns to their colleagues? I'll make an example. I believe, for example, that outside of the DG and in certain instances, the minister, we don't want to be going down and drilling and saying this particular action belongs to Mr. Vusi Chose, in SITA, but rather we would want to allocate our actions to the MD or the minister. Then on their side, they can then do whatever needs to be done, because ultimately that is who we would want to hold accountable. I think, yeah, let me stop there. Oh, yes. And then the last thing, I've also been terrified by the number of escalations that have come through on my email. Yesterday, I opened my email. I could figure out that you're probably testing, but I had pages and pages, like those Starling contributions, pages and pages of emails. And I was like, I hope this is not how it's going to be, once it's in a live environment. So could we also look at how we are going to do that? Perhaps it's one email that comes with a link for various actions. And if that email is sent once a day, then I can then follow up on different actions instead of each action carrying, coming in its own email, because it does tend to a bit clog up the mailbox. But as I said, I think there's real value in us sitting together so you get an idea from the members on how we would wish to utilize it. MD, can I then hand over to you for the responses to the questions? I will give you until at the very latest 4:15, because we still do have one last agenda item before we close. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members. Chair, first I will take on some of the questions, and then I will hand over to Gopal to touch on some of the commercial things around costs, administrative support, the companies, and how the customization, the process that will take. But just from a top view, Chair, this solution was built on existing what we call our ITSM environment, which is the IT service management and the tools that we have there. So we've built a layer, and Peter will get into some of the technical aspects of that. And Peter will also address the issue of Parliament's corporate identity protection. But the view that he wanted to show is that it is both on a function but also a comfort level, that when the fact that it's a multi-tenant, meaning multiple organization will be serviced on this platform, it is customizable, that it is a certain amount of identity is made specifically for the portfolio committee and for Parliament, and it's distinct and clear that that's what it is. The question around the data, the storages, this is built on is an on-prem system, which means that the data is housed at SITA and is managed as SITA. Although it is a multi-tenant platform, meaning multiple organizations using it, each user will view what is relevant for them. There's a hierarchy that will allow for the staff that supports the portfolio committee to have certain views, and that the views will be built based according to function and the defined hierarchy. But those can be part of the discussions that come through in the customization session. Again, that will be critical, and I appreciate and I'm thankful to the committee that there is openness to do that, because that will really make that easier to achieve the systems platform. A lot of the work was done by SITA people and using the expertise that we have in-house. But Chair, we will, the team will share some of what we can do, some of the information. We may need the costing, we may need to come back, but we are, of course, doing this with the hope that there will be funding made available to cover the cost. But the focus for the team was to demo capability and to show also some function that can then shape the detailed definition of what's required and how the workflow needs to be structured. Chair, in terms of the lifetime of the management of systems, I mean, as SITA, we're not going anywhere unless, of course, a government tells us to go somewhere else. But we do, it is in the fundamentals of what we do when we service departments, that we manage the application throughout its entire lifetime. In fact, one of the things that we are taking a hard look at are some of the systems that we've been managing, primarily for defense, for SABS, where we have to start looking at migration to the newer platforms. So our approach is always around that. Where there is some risk and where we do take on is that, of course, in the nature of software management, is that you get to a point where there's an underlying piece of technology that you source which reaches end of life, and there we have to build a workaround. But it very rarely is a surprise. You know, we get early enough warning to do that, and we do look at building the additional capability in-house, or where we'll come back with a recommendation to say we now need to migrate from and build a new evolution of a system. But that's part of the life cycle management of the system. The point on the contract is also noted, Chair, and one of the things that that is a focus for me is to strengthen our contract management capability throughout the organization. Both from, and it's not as much an issue of, well, I guess you could say there's two parts to it. There's the part to it of governance and housekeeping for auditability around that. And then there's the part of contract management to make sure that you own the artifacts, the data that go towards making the system function. And that is part of what we do, and the capability is there within the team. But it is something that we'll have to elevate for the comfort of the committee. From my side, the last part is around the delegation. Can actions be delegated? That is a fundamental architecture of the system, that an action will be delegated, because it's the same fundamental core platform that is used in logging of tickets and things, that it will be passed from one person to the next based on capability, where a single ticket may require action from different functions, and the workflow is designed accordingly. Similarly, Chair, on the reports, the customization, the number of alerts, those there is capability, and Peter will get into that, of consolidating those probably in a single message that can come up a day, and the point you raised, Chair, is a common side effect of similar systems like this, because then you can get an influx of emails or SMSs, but with the right customization, we can mitigate a lot of that. So, Chair, I will hand over to Gopal. He'll talk on the commercial aspects of what we have built so far, and also the contracts, and then Peter will talk about the access control and also all the integration to external systems. Gopal?
Thanks, MD, and thanks, Chair and honorable members, for the questions. Just on the commercial aspects, as indicated, the system is an existing system that SITA has developed and improved on over many years. So we're using the system across multiple service environments. A few of them came up, like the presidential hotline, because it's actually a workflow system where we can track and monitor and attach, put timelines to it. There were questions around, can you send out notifications and SMSs? All these things are embedded and are in the system. So when we bring on a new situation or new solution, it's configuration that is required and not necessarily development. So I think that's very important. Hence, we have a system that is already in a government private cloud. So data sovereignty very much there with all the security bells and whistles. It also has backup and disaster recovery in its architecture. So that is in place, that has come in as well. And when we're looking at, looking at the commercials around this, systems like this goes around users, the number of users that we have, because it's linked to licenses, but then we're optimizing licenses depending on if we're using the same people that are using the system on other services, and presidential hotline with the public liaison officers was used as an example. And generally, when we're looking at the price point on maintenance and support, it's around, I would say, 1,000 Rand per user per month. And that generally includes maintenance and support. But then if you're looking at specifically integration with other systems, which is possible in all cases, we can integrate to existing systems to make sure that information goes across if required. Those type of developments may need once-off development time to be able to bring the skills in to be able to then do that. So those are additional costs, which we generally call setup costs or development costs. But generally, maintenance and support on the system is generally linked to users, and I gave a figure of around 1,000 rand a month. But then it all comes back to how much of economies of scale do we get. The more using the system, we could probably get even more economies of scale coming in. So that's basically the commercials. In terms of timelines to roll out, the system is there. It's developed. It's a matter of user requirements and then implementation. So timelines, it's all dependent on availability of users to provide the inputs. Certainly to configure and align to your user requirements is fairly easy. Yes, there would be some that are simpler to do than others, but then we can also phase it because it's an agile approach in terms of how we then want to move. So we can do this pretty quickly and fully support then having the user requirements session to further refine the system, because there were a lot of questions on that. Questions on security. I think who's watching us, what type of as we're using the system, is somebody else being able to see our data. From a SITA perspective, all the functional support resources are fully vetted. They support, I mean, it's a given that SITA does support many systems in government, but it's done in a secure manner, in a vetted manner, that people that have access are those that are fully secure, and they support government in terms of systems. So, and even access to data is profile linked, and there's an audit trail. So you cannot just access any information. It's built in a hierarchy with profile control. So those are my comments just on a high level on the commercialization and a little bit around the security and the timelines. Maybe I hand over to Peter. Peter, if you want to unpack, as the MD said, a few of the technical areas. Thank you.
Thank you again. Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm going to try and cover just one or 2 points that I think was not covered completely. On the issue of SIU, there was a specific question about how does SIU fit into this. We have developed a system from a parliamentary proclamation perspective. Every time the president puts out a proclamation, that process through SIU to manage it into departments. We've developed that process, and SIU is the key role player there. They vetted the system from a security perspective. They've asked all the questions around security, data sovereignty, access to the back end, and who can see what. We have finalized the POC on that. We are waiting for the submission of that and then permission to go continue with the full deployment of that system. And it's on the same system, and that's why SIU was mentioned, because Pranesh, for instance, he is part of the SIU, and when Portfolio Committee now submits a request into SIU, and it goes to him, he already has a license, and he will then access with that same license that information, but only what is assigned to him. He cannot access the Portfolio Committee. He can only see what's assigned to him, and he has access to interact on that. So there's line of sight from the top down, so from a committee down into, but anybody on the bottom cannot see up. They can only see what sits in their environment. That's the principle of security within the system. I'm just looking through the comments quickly. Cops covered the backups. Just on the reminders, at the moment, I do understand the uneasiness about the number of reminders. Let's talk about the data quickly. At the moment, the portfolio committee provided us the Excel spreadsheet. On that Excel spreadsheet, there was 544 recommendations. A number of them were closed, a number of them were still in process, but that is the full scope that was provided from the committee perspective to us. That full list is loaded into the system. What we, as the recipients of those tasks, as well as the recommendations, are experiencing at the moment, is because we are loading 544 in a bulk. You are getting every single time something is loaded, you are getting notification. This will destabilize when the system is adopted. You will only see changes and notifications on those items that happens within the that is added through the meeting at that point in time, and then of course escalations as they are scheduled, and we can decide how we escalate. You can decide you escalate on 50-80% to whoever you escalate at that point, but those are things that we set within the system. At the moment we have a generic escalation set, and therefore we will get those notifications at the moment because everything sits in against certain people's names. But it will definitely stabilize going forward. However, it is something that we need to guard against, because a system like this can do notification storms or incident storms, and then people start ignoring them. So we need to guard against that. Yeah, I think that's what I can cover at the moment. Of course, one of the questions asked was, so how did we decide on the OEM? And how did we decide on the person that's supporting us? The system has a tri-party relationship. So when we go on, at the moment, I've got an existing contract with a support vendor. That support vendor is appointed through an open tender process. And every 3 to 5 years, depending on what the term of that contract is, I will go to an open tender process again, and I will appoint through an open tender process a new vendor to support me for the next term of the contract. This technology has been, it started off as ARS Remedy, it is now ITSM, and in future will upgrade to a cloud platform that sits local cloud within on-premise. And the future of the system stays, it will always be an on-premise system, data will always be local. Yeah, I think that's what I can answer at the moment. If there's anything we missed, anybody can ask if there's something critical that's missed.
Okay, can I check with the advisors, or Dr. Matubu, your hand is up, or is coming to you? You want to make additions?
Yes, I would love to, Chair, and thanks to SITA once again. I think there's one or two questions, Chair, that needed to be clarified in terms of. I think one of the questions was on the historical data, the 500 odd number of resolutions that have been incorporated in the system. Those are the real observations that, or resolutions that are outstanding, and that would have come out of their manual spreadsheet that we were using as a committee. And these are the resolutions at that point in time when we, starting to test the system with SITA, that were opened. There would have been a number of added resolutions that the committee would have come up with, in the recent, past, given our meetings and, and what would have come out of those meetings. But the 500 odd number of resolutions that are on the system, those are the real time, and those are the resolutions that are still open based on the spreadsheet that we were using, back in the day, and that we still, are currently using until the system has really come, to life. The second part, Chair, it's in as far as the post-implementation, now that the prototype has been tested, one of the things that we've been doing, at least as a committee staff, is to engage our principals, from our, the unit manager, the section manager, and for that matter, the divisional manager, and hoping that at some point we'll have a conversation with the STP. The thinking that we had when we started engaging SITA was that let's have this and use our committee as a launching pad in demonstrating the city's capabilities based on our requirement on the resolution tracking. And now that we are here and the prototype has been tested, there is an ongoing conversation with our principals, our managers, on how best then can we make sure that the system, remain live post the adoption and the handing over, to the committee and then to Parliament at some point, we are hoping. But what we had in mind, at least to make sure that the system does not become one of those white elephants, is that we get a proper handover mechanism, where there will be a handover document that would clearly, indicate what's going to happen going forward in terms of managing the system itself. And if any other cost, if this system was to be cascaded or to be spread over across the committee sections, where there's about 30 odd number of portfolio committees, how is that going to, to take place? And this will be the conversation that we're going to be having with the principals. And we are hoping that at some point, once this has been endorsed at the committee level, at our level as a portfolio committee on comms, then we can start fully engaging as part of the handover process, our management and how the system can be kept alive going forward in making sure that the system does not die in the process. That's how we really have the conversation texture has been, folding out going forward in making sure that this does not, get to be one of those where it dies post the implementation. That is a conversation. I would want to leave it at that, Chair. If there's any other clarity that is needed, we'll then take it, from the members. Thank you very much.
Just before you go off, Doc, you said the 500 odd was the real life data that you have. But Honorable Bodlani's question was, does it incorporate things from previous parliaments, or is it just this term of parliament?
If my memory serves me well, Chair, it would be, and Mr. Maleka and Pulu would come in and assist if I'm missing out on anything. The 500 odd number of resolutions, it would be on the current, since the current administration started. That's what my recollection really could it could be that the 500 odd number of resolutions talk about, it's only for the current administration. I don't think and I would if you allow, Chair, that Mr. Menaka should assist me on this, but those that are being captured are for the current administration, as far as I can remember. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Maleka? Okay, I think we'll come back to that. Honorable members, colleagues, I think I want us to move from this so we can get the last agenda item, except to say, Honorable Singh, this system is developed for members primarily, in the sense that as and when the committee takes decisions, we need to know that those are being attended to in one way or the other. And I think that we also have an appreciation that the fact that we've made a recommendation does not necessarily speak to its resolution in the manner that we would want it to, but we need to get cogent answers, because there's a lot of recommendations that we make, they never see the light of day. So as a member, your question was, how does it benefit you? As a member, you're able to go into the system, you're able to see all of the recommendations we would have made as a committee. You're able to see whether government has responded, hasn't responded, what is being done about it. How do we then start conversations around consequence management on certain issues that are not being resolved, I suppose, in the manner that the committee would have recommended. My suggestion is also that they must build in a part that allows us now as individual members, when on the ground, to be able to input issues that are coming from the community. So that's why I made the example about ICASA and network in a particular area. Now, unless you have the numbers of the DG or CEO or a technician, we're all basically flapping around trying to find somebody to fix the problems. So ideally, this system should provide, a platform where we're able to report matters and we know that we're going to get responses either way. Thank you very much. And again, SITA, I think we what does it say, Kanene, that added in Xhosa? We miss 1 million mouths to express our gratitude to you. We know this is work in progress. We're going to use your very same tool to track that you are doing what we asked you to do, which amongst others, I think the most urgent thing is that workshop around user requirements. If you could just have a look at the business processes once again to ensure that they're aligned and we can have that session. Honorable Ntshabeleng, I'm very tempted to suppress you because we have closed now. Mr. Melo was going to say goodbye.
Chair, quick one. The question of the cost of the initial development was not answered, but I'm happy to get it deferred because I think it's critical. Some of the questions that were asked to be literally answered. I think Gopal spoke about the user fee, which is not a development cost. That's post fees to be charged. But in respect to the current pilot kernel of the data in terms of the platform, it's very important that they can give us that. Second one is when they come back, tell us the element of AI support as well as the integration of the current format of the system with regards to our current ERP, the Marang / one with the government we're using on Parliament side of it. I just wanted to deposit that. I don't want to start a discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ntshabeleng. Mr. Melo?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we will come back with a view on the costs incurred this far and also package a complete proposal that will include the consultative session and the essential.
Mr. Melo, you're muted.
Oh, my apologies, Chair. Chair, thank you very much for this opportunity. We will come back with a view of the costing to date on the solution to do the demo and the prototype. And then we will also, I think the team will use indicative numbers that they have to present a proposal for the portfolio committee to go live on the system, also showing annual maintenance as well. But those are numbers that we will work out and we will be able to share that. We will also respond to some of the questions that we didn't address around access control, how we'll manage it, and what are the processes when a member leaves. I think there was a few questions that we've noted that we will also address in the documentation that follows up. But I think the workshop will be very useful, Chair, because we will also get insight and that the team will be able to tackle that. I think the next important thing, Chair, would be just confirmation on the date and also maybe some feedback on what we believe the costs will be to make sure that we are in the right price point in terms of costing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Melo and the team. I think we have exhausted this discussion for now. You are free to stay. However, you may also excuse yourself as I think we have exhausted the discussion. Thanks once again, and please do pass our best wishes to the outgoing board. And we look forward to meeting your new board once they have been inaugurated. Thank you so much. Honorable members, colleagues, let's move to the next item, which is the presentation of the draft report on the podcasters roundtable. I will ask the advisors to present that particular report. They have 30 minutes to do so, assuming that we won't take long. No, actually 20 minutes because we still need discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will be talking over the
Mr. Melo, you can switch your video off.
I will be talking over the report, Chair, as requested. Let me quickly share a summary on the report. I'm not too sure if it's showing, Chair. The summary of the report.
Yes, it is.
Chair, this is the roundtable, the podcast roundtable report, and this engagement, it took place on the 24th of March, 2026. That was last month. This was to engage stakeholders on the future podcasting and digital content creation in South Africa. The primary objective, Chair, was not to, as indicated, leading to the actual roundtable, was that the objective was not to decide whether to regulate podcasting, but it was how to develop a fit-for-purpose governance framework that supports innovation, economic growth, and constitutional rights, while addressing genuine online harms that would have come out now of recent past. The roundtable brought together on the day government departments, which is our own DCDT department and GCIS, I think. The regulators were also in attendance, global platforms, that's your Google Meet, TikTok, and the rest of platforms were also in attendance, industry bodies. Civil society was also in attendance, and content creators, which is our podcasters in this instance. Chair, on the day, a strong consensus emerged that podcasting is primarily Black-led, to a greater degree, youth-driven economic opportunity, offering jobs, entrepreneurship, and democratic participation, particularly in underserved communities. Participants agreed that South Africa already has a robust legal foundations, and that will be your POPIA, your constitution, first of all. There will also be common laws, there will be POPIA, there will be ECA, there will be a Transaction Act, there will be Film and Publication Act, and equality legislation to address many of the harms associated with the online content. The core challenges on the day which we identified, Chair, were the fragmentations, with the poor access to remedies and a lack of policy coherence, and not necessarily the absence of laws. So that's really what came out of the engagement on the day. Across all discussions, Chair, there was a firm resistance to licensing, censorship, or format-based regulation, and these were some of the inputs that were made on the day. Podcasting was consistently characterized as delivery format rather than distinct medium. The focus, therefore, what came out of that engagement on the day, the focus should therefore be on content-related harms such as hate speech, misinformation, child protection, your privacy violation, and deceptive AI content, regarding how and where that content is distributed. A central finding on the day was that from systems and not individual creators are the primary lever for effective governance. Global platforms already curate, amplify, demonetize, and remove content through opaque systems that significantly shape public discourse. Participants argued on the day for greater platform accountability, for transparency and localization, alongside proportionate and a risk-based oversight. Economic barriers, particularly high data cost, and those are the areas that were really elevated and were quite prominent on the day. These were high data cost, limited equipment, the absence of audience measurement standards for the podcasters, and limited access to monetization were identified as the main constraints on growth, especially for small and emerging content creators. There was a strong support for incubators, investment mechanisms, skills development, and formalizations, framed not as control, but as enablers of sustainability and trust. Public commentary revealed deep skepticism about state regulation. This is really what was brought up on the day as well. Fears of censorship and frustration with infrastructure challenges. These views reinforced the need for clear communication, if need be, a co-regulation as well, and visible economic support rather than punitive approaches. On the overall, Chair, our report concludes that South Africa should pursue a light touch, right-based, future-proof governance approach that strengthens existing institutions, as highlighted earlier on, centers user remedies, protects children, ensure platform accountability, and unlocks the economic potential of digital creators. Number of consolidated recommendations that came out of the engagement. The first one was around the legislative and policy direction. It was indicated that there's a need to finalize the white paper on audio and audiovisual content services and online safety as a matter of urgency, explicitly covering on-demand digital content and platforms. Part of the recommendations that came out of that engagement was to amend existing legislation, and some of those are long overdue. That's your ECA and your ECTA, which is the Transaction Act, rather than creating new laws to clarify platforms' accountability and online content governance, particularly for the podcasting sector. Part of the recommendations are to draft policy-based technology-neutral legislation to future-proof regulation against emerging online streamlines, formats, and technologies, and this would also need to be driven as matter of urgency. Adopted what we call the 6 Rs framework. That's the rights of the individuals, responsibilities of the content creators, the recourses that are in place in making sure that where there is, some harm that would have emanated from these platforms, that there's a recourse, to that effect. The regulations that will govern the space, if need be. The research on the space, that's one element that was lacking, and the reform, if need be, as the guiding policy lens into the whole ecosystem. Regulations focus on content and harm. That was also part of the recommendations that would have emanated from the engagement and what the report covers. Regulate content harms, not formats or technologies. Recognize podcasting as a delivery mechanisms across multiple genders. Develop gender-specific codes of conduct, such as, in 3 categories: news and actuality, entertainment, and commercial content. And the news and actuality, accuracy is very important. Fact-checking would be very critical, and right of reply where there is a need for such. Entertainment, artistic freedom with clear limits on harm. Commercial content, mandatory sponsorship and funding disclosure where there is a need. There's a need to avoid licensing or prior permission requirements for creators. That's part of the recommendations that were made out of emanating from the engagement. Platform accountability and digital sovereignty. There will be a need to shift regulatory focus to platform systems, so algorithms, which is one of the things that is really would need to be looked into. Amplification, monetization is one of the issues that came out quite prominently, and moderation of the content, and not necessarily individual speech. Require large platforms to publish regular South African space transparency reports, maintain accessible appeal and complaints processes, designate local representative for legal accountability. Part of the recommendation as well was to assert the digital sovereignty by requiring platforms to comply with South African law, and where appropriate, establish a local presence to that effect. Centralized complaints and remedies. Establish a single centralized complaints entry point for online harms. Routing cases to the appropriate regulator or self-regulatory body, which would be established in that particular instance. Formalize and strengthen the regulators forum. And these are the 3 regulators operating in a system. That's your FPB, your ICASA, and your SITA. Formalize and strengthen the user forum with a statutory mandate for coordination and joint protocols amongst the 3 regulators. Ensure remedies that are fast, accessible, affordable, and non-judicial, especially during elections and crises. Part of the considered recommendations around the protection of children and vulnerable groups. Extend the FPB's age classification and content warning model to podcasting through, if need be, co-regulation and self-classification, if need be. Promote audience advisories without restricting adult content. Prioritize safeguards against hate speech, incitement to violence, and exploitation. The next set of consolidated recommendations around addressing the artificial intelligence risk agently. Develop immediate policy guidelines on AI-generated content, including disclosure requirements for synthetic or manipulated audio or video. Safeguard against impersonation and deception. Anticipate AI impact on journalism trust and democratic discourse. The other part of the engagement, which was one of the pillars also that were deliberated, was the economic enablement and industry growth. Establish a national content fund that's And some of these things will be some of the best practices that are out there in the world. Establish a national content fund supported by contribution from large platforms and high revenue digital services. Consider a community media levy from OTT and digital platforms with funding and ring-fenced for independent and community content creators within that ecosystem. Allocate a portion of digital advertising spend directly to podcasts similar to existing community radio stations set aside. Support collective bargaining mechanism to improve creators' negotiating power with platforms and network operators. Invest in incubators, skills development, and mentorship, particularly in rural and township communities, in order to grow that podcasting ecosystem. The other part, it was around the infrastructure, data, and access, and this is one area which was championed and moderated by ACT. Is to reduce data and device costs that came out of that engagement, including zero rating of public interest content, promote infrastructure sharing among network operators, especially in underserviced areas, in order to circumvent and at least assist with the issue of data cost. Explore grant tax incentives or low interest loans for equipment and working capital for the podcasters. Education and public awareness. Launch national digital rights and remedies awareness campaigns for users and creators. Integrate education on freedom of expression, online harms, and media literacy into the school's curriculum to enlighten, some of this consumers of this content at a very early age. Support training on ethical content creation and legal responsibility. On the research and evidence and oversight part of the conversation, commission a baseline study on the size, demographics, geographic spread, and economic contribution of the digital content creation sector. Ensure ongoing monitoring and quarterly review of the implementation progress on some of this recommendation the committee would have made. Publicize the adopted report widely, including through an online launch. And this is pretty much, Chair, what really emanated and what the committee would need to do, making sure that some of those things are sort of being actions and they get to be implemented where there's a need for implementation. That was really the conversation, which was quite technical on the day, given the content of the report. But these are the recommendations and what would have emanated from the conversation on the day. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Medupe. And thank you so much for managing to condense what is quite an involved document and an involved process into that summary, which I think is very clear and succinct. Honorable members, this was your process. These are the outcomes from the roundtable. Can I get your comments and views on how we should, on the report as presented? Honorable Subrathi, you'll be the first, followed by Honorable Botlani. In that order, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me also then welcome the presentation and the report as presented by Dr. Medupe. I just have two questions, and that talks to around, maybe I haven't captured it correctly, but one of the big concerns we've had around podcasters is what are the guardrails that as a committee we're recommending for the podcasters in the absence of any regulation, because there was clearly a pushback, don't regulate us, we don't want any more legislation. But what are the guardrails that we are proposing here against misinformation and disinformation, where you get these podcasters sitting there and really doing their thing? How do we moderate that? Does this report talk to that? Does it make any recommendations around that? And I know there is a podcasters association. Have we reflected on them, and have we given them any elevated their role over here? If there is a guardrail or if there's an association that we can perhaps connect with and to talk about the challenges we face around podcasters, around maybe misinformation, disinformation, any other concerns that we may have we created a link with them via this report here? I'd like to see that coming through. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Subrathi. Honorable Botlani.
Thank you so much, Chair. Chair, just for clarity, was this report shared? And I'm not sure how we are dealing with it. Are we receiving it as information? If you could just clarify so that at least we know how to go about this.
Honorable Bodlani, I did ask right at the beginning of the meeting, and I'll be honest that I don't remember going through it, but I know that it was sent at some point. So I got a response that said it was shared to members earlier on this week, which is why we then proceeded to get the summary document. I do think, however, that the summary has been a bit comprehensive, and from the report that I'm getting, it has been shared, but we can talk about it. The intention would be that we adopt the report. You remember we had made also a commitment to the roundtable that we would compile our report and it would then be ATC'd for adoption by the National Assembly. So that is the process that we are embarking on. Back to you, Honorable Bodlani.
Chair, I must be honest, I tried going through to look for the same document that we've been dealing with. I personally could not find it. So I take personal responsibility for that. So that said, Chairperson, maybe it would be appreciated if it is resent to us and perhaps we receive this as information and we would be happy to deal with the report at the next meeting because it is quite informative and it really, from what we have received so far, does capture our views, but to do justice to the work that the content advisors have made towards this document, it is worthy for us to also read further.
Thank you, Honorable Bodlani. And because I'm not seeing any hands, I'm tempted to agree with you very quickly before anybody else comes with something else. Like you, I take personal responsibility. I haven't gone through it, but I thought that we would discuss it here in the event that other members have done so. I would appreciate time to also go through it before it's adopted by the committee. Honorable Nchabeleng?
Chair, thanks a lot for the opportunity. Just one key input. I see the report in terms of recommendations did not capture fully some of the views. I stressed the, sort of the freedom of podcasters in terms of their platform and expression. It's something that we must really put sacrosanct because, and I related it to the fact that we as multi-political parties, not a particular party, but multi-political parties, we face the, challenge whereby access to media has been a challenge. And as a result, we've been prejudiced. And the only platform that gives parties or political movements opportunity on a free, unfettered, undiscriminatory, non-biased has been podcasters. So I would like us to, sort of emphasize that point in the report, that we want an unfettered, unbiased, free, open access, and as well as operations of podcasters. The moment we overregulate them, we create the problem of the current, they call them the mainstream media crisis, where there is already, dominant, influence of capital in it. Who can say what and how should, ordinary free speech be exercised? So, that freedom question is very critical for me, important, and I don't see it highlighted critically on the report. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Nchabeleng. Honorable members, can I ask that when we start our following meeting, we start with the consideration of this report. We won't have it presented again and taking time. So I would request that maybe political parties come having already gone through the report, make their inputs on the report, and then we'll take it from there. That point is also noted, Honorable Nchabeleng, and I think they'll incorporate it. Okay, well, with there not being any further item on the agenda, can we check with Hajira if you have managed to get hold of Mr. Ngoma, and if the Secretariat is able to give us any update on the study tour? Can I just check with Honorable Singh? Has your party now already decided that the moratorium is end of May? Stop smiling when we're here because you have not been able to respond on time. Honorable Singh, just for clarity, is end of May our hard deadline as it relates to the participation of the DA? Honorable Bodlani, I'm not sure if Honorable Singh is still here. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed, Honorable Singh.
Chair, I think yes, the end of May would be it for us.
Okay. Mr. Ngoma, please do come in.
Afternoon and good afternoon to members as well as my colleagues on the platform. Chair, in regards to the study tour, we had previously returned to DECO proposing the dates of the 15th to the 19th of January. And those dates were really based on the parliamentary
January.
June, Chair. Those dates were, Chair, based on the parliamentary program because, Chair, and members should remember that this is a period that will be very busy with the budget votes right up until the first week of June when Parliament will be debating budget vote 1. Safe to just indicate that with the latest program now, Chair, that week is no longer an oversight week. It's now a constituency week. But we had returned, as I've indicated, but as things stand, we don't have a response yet. However, we have been copied to on the communication that was sent to the Chinese embassy proposing those dates. So as things stand, Chair, we just are waiting to hear from the Chinese embassy. And Chair, just to remind the committee that when they requested that we postpone the date, they had indicated on their communication that they were proposing that the study tour be taken mid-year. Chair, we take note of the issue that you just spoke to now regarding the cutoff date for the DA. We looked, Chair, in the program if there was any space or opening for the committee to undertake a study tour to any other country during this month, Chair, and looking at the program, Chair, and how every day there will be about 3 different plenaries, or actually 6 different plenaries, Chairperson, on the budget vote. We thought that it would be best for us not to interfere with that period, Chair, and that is why we're still proposing that same dates, Chair, for the study tour, because also, Chair, it would be very difficult for us, even if the committee were to choose to go to another country to work towards the end of this month, Chair, like because we only left with about 22 days before the end of the month, Chair, and it would mean that the committee would have to travel in the last week. It would be really very difficult for us, Chair, to pull that off. Perhaps, Chair, I should hand over to my colleagues also for their inputs before I say too much. Thank you very much.
Who else is working on this? Because, okay, the last thing that you just said, I want to dismiss that outright. I was called by the Speaker's office 2 or 3 days ago asking me to accompany the Speaker on a trip. I'm not sure whether it's to China or wherever next week. And in less than a day, they had already given me a ticket. So I want to dismiss this notion that it can be done quickly because it was done. I saw it less than 48 hours ago. Is there anybody else who has any input to make here? Because I had made a proposal on the group which had seemed to be supported around visiting the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And this is because of the work that they'd been doing around digital public infrastructure. Now, we had said if by Friday, which is today, we hadn't heard from the Chinese, we should have already approached the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Does anybody want to make any additional inputs on this? Mr. Ngoma, who were you referring to when you said there are other colleagues who may have an input?
I was referring to the team, the CA's chair, and perhaps the researcher as well. Thank you, Chair.
Guys, I think you are letting us down on this. It's not something that generally happens, but in this particular instance, I think the committee feels let down. We've raised this matter numerous times. This trip was supposed to have happened last year. We agreed to move it this year. We intentionally did not spend our funds because we wanted to be able to resource a situation where every single member of the committee is able to go on the study tour. We could have done other things. We could have done more oversight. We could have, and that money was returned to Treasury. Now you are quite aware that we're in an election year and parties are going to be putting moratoriums like the DA has already done. And I think it's really, really unfortunate that at this point in time, you're not able to give us very succinct answers. Is there anything that the advisors or the researcher would like to say?
If I may, Chair, we had a meeting in the week with the rest of the support staff, Chair, after the last meeting and the message you posted on the group with regard to in an event where the Chinese embassy has not responded by today, we should look at the alternatives. Chair, we are in the process, and this is something that we can do as a matter of urgency. We can even do it over the weekend in terms of either Saudi Arabia or any other country, or Brazil for that matter. Those could be some of the countries that could be considered. The good thing is that in a previous concept note, we would have touched on some of the case studies on Brazil particularly. So it's really, Chair, it's a matter of going back into some of the concept notes that we put together where Brazil was part of what could have been considered, and would try and put a concept note as soon as possible, and perhaps start, through the Secretariat with the application process and looking at whether we can try and make sure that we meet, the date, the targeted date of end of May. But in as far as the information in terms of the case studies, which countries to go for, we know that we have Brazil almost ready to level in terms of information that we can put together as a concept note. Then we can then start with the application to the House Chair, on looking into an alternative country, which might be Brazil, as recommended, or Saudi Arabia for that matter, Chair. But it is something that we spoke about in the week, and we are working on a concept note to an alternative country to that effect. I'm not too sure if that is assisting, Chair, on that note.
Thank you very much. Members, would you like to say anything on this? My understanding of what is being said by Dr. Medub is that they can put, when the initial proposal was done, I think there were a number of countries. We settled on China on the strength of the motivation. They're saying Brazil is ready. Saudi Arabia may take a little bit longer. And the suggestion is perhaps let's then put in the application no later than Monday to the House Chair. I would also request that Mr. Ngoma shares with us, or at least with me, who they've been interacting with at DERCO, so that if we need to fast track that process, we're able to do so as well. Can I have any comments from the members if that is the mandate you are giving us to proceed with?
Chair, my hand is up.
You may proceed, Honorable Nchabeleng.
Thanks a lot, Chair. My apologies because I'm mobile and I'm unable to fiddle with the technology for hands and stuff. Chair, on this issue of the trip, I think we are really disappointing. We were told by now this issue should have been resolved. We indicated our availability, and now the issue of Parliament, election season has started, and we still are not finalized. So I don't think there is that urgency. Another committee that I'm in had just approved a trip, which they worked for the last 2 weeks just to get it sorted out. We've been knowing about this matter. We haven't done much in finalizing this thing. So I'm a bit worried in the way we are taking this matter. Not only that, given the fact that, we even got a budget where we could accommodate more other people to be part of this process, but it looked like there is just no seriousness on actualizing this issue. And it's now eating into our time on what we can afford to go to and when. So I think let's agree on this meeting that can we just from Monday be given a final weight if application has to go in for Brazil now, let it be deposited in today so that we start the process of arranging ourselves in terms of when and which date we can do this thing. It will be very unfair for this committee not to achieve this, international trip. But I still am saying I doubt if there's seriousness about it. That is my input, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ntshabeleng. Honorable Ngobese.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and good afternoon to all honorable members. Chair, I just wanted to emphasize the need, for this committee to undertake, this benchmarking exercise, because it's about learning what other countries are doing so that we can also improve, doing our work in this particular portfolio committee. But I know that, the team that we have, they can still pull it through. There's no moratorium from the IFP as yet, but soon I think it will issue such. So I'm also emphasizing the need that let's move faster and see whatever country that is available so that we can do some benchmarking. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngobese, Honorable Ntshabeleng. I think the message is quite clear, and I think the committee staff is going to work with the requisite urgency to ensure that we pull it through. Let me offer my apologies to the honorable members. Indeed, this is something that we should have gotten done and dusted a long time ago, and the inconvenience that you have suffered is truly, truly regretted. So please just give us over the weekend, and hopefully when we meet on Tuesday, we will be able to give a much better report, including any updates that we need to do during the course of the weekend, if any. Honorable members, colleagues that have remained with us from government committee staff, let me thank you very much for your time. And I think let us call the meeting to a close. I wish you a wonderful weekend, and we will meet on Tuesday for the budget vote. My understanding is that it is at 2 o'clock, I think. Hey, let me not give you wrong times and then you don't pitch. And you said the chair was trying to get us not to debate. So, but it is on Monday. There's also an invitation that we have shared with you from the minister's office, inviting you to a stakeholder engagement after the budget vote. I think the details have been shared on the group. I've submitted my apologies because I'm writing an exam the following day, but I hope members will go there and participate in the engagements with the stakeholders that have been invited. Thank you very much and enjoy your weekend further. The meeting is adjourned.